The City Council's Planning and Land Use Management Regular Committee for Tuesday, 14th day of January 2020. I'm joined by Councilmember Bob Blumenfield, our Vice Chair of this committee, and the esteemed Mr. Gil Cedillo, a member of the committee. My name is Marquise Harris-Dawson. I serve as Chair. We begin this meeting as we begin all our meetings with folks who've signed up for general public comment. For folks who've signed up for multiple items, you have 2 minutes to speak, and you can mix that time up any way you so desire. And for those who signed up for one item, have 1 minute to speak. So Lydia Ponce, you have 2 minutes. Bud, Corey, and Carrie Edwards, you have 1 minute.
Good afternoon, Lydia Ponce, Venice, California, Mayo, Quechua, and I'm here to remind us to take a look in this new year at the properties that are around the city, especially vacant hospitals like St. Vincent. We have 381 beds there. So why are we not doing an eminent domain? Why are we not housing people there? Why are we not switching a narrative to the heart and spirit and the letter of who we are as the City of Angels? I think that the challenge is to look away from these agendas and look up away from the paperwork and look outside this building on your way in and out of this building and work off the ramps to the freeways. You see the people, we see the people, we know the people. They're dying. I think there's more than 3 a day dying on our streets. So let's get to it. Let's get that St. Vincent Hospital as a resource for the people, because we are the City of Angels, aren't we?
Thank you so much. You have an additional minute, Ms. Ponce, if you would like it. You don't have to use it, but you can. General public comment, anything that pertains.
Happy 2020.
Thank you so much. Bud, Corey, Carrie Edwards.
Good afternoon. My story is a personal story. I wanted to let you know that I've been living in Playa del Rey at 8170 Redlands for...
Can you tell us your name?
I'm sorry, Bud Corey.
Thank you.
Yes. And since, as of January of 2020, will be 33 years living in one unit in that apartment building. I've been working in the food service industry for 40 years, and at 70 years old now, I'm looking and interested in retirement. However, like many, I'm not able to do that, and I'm working full-time. If I'm forced to move, if there comes a sale and a condo conversion, I will not be able to afford an apartment in the area that I'm living, or maybe anywhere in Los Angeles, much less purchase a home. So I live a modest lifestyle. I drive a 20-year-old automobile, and I'm frankly fearful for the future.
Thank you. One more time, Carrie Edwards. Carrie Edwards, there she is.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Carrie Edwards. I'm Bud's neighbor, and I've never been in this forum before, so it's very interesting. The reason I'm here today is just to remind the committee to protect our vulnerable populations. So the renters that are in rent-stabilized apartments like Bud, not only senior citizens but disabled folks, and to protect them from the developers that are coming in and forcing the conversion from apartments to condos and forcing our vulnerable population either to be homeless or to leave the state. So I guess that's all I have to say, and thank you.
Thank you. Good job. All right, Mr. Mejia, that brings us to item number 6, which there has been a request to continue. Item number 6.
Yes, Councilman. Item 6 is a Sustainable Communities Project exemption for a project in CD4. It's a mixed-use project with 121 residential units and 125 hotel guest rooms.
All right. So we'll continue that item for 30 days.
I believe that's accurate, Councilman.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. 14 days.
Okay, 14 days.
14 days. So again, item number 6 continued for 14 days. Without objection, that'll be to order. For the record, we've been joined by Council Member John Lee, the San Fernando Valley, bringing our total complement of members to 4. Next, Mr. Mejia, we have item number 2, if we could read that into the record.
Sure. Item 2, Councilman, this is a report from the Central APC. It's a zone change and a height district change for a 19-unit multifamily residential building, which will include affordable units for extremely low-income households.
So I'll move that we accept that item on consent. Seconded by Mr. Blumenfield. If there's no objection, that'll be the order. So ordered. That takes us, Mr. Mejia, to our opportunity to hear from our esteemed Director of the Department of City Planning, Mr. Bertoni. Item number 1.
Thank you, Chair Harris-Dawson, members of the committee, Vince Bertoni, Director of Planning. Just real quick, on the City Planning Commission's meeting of December 13th, they considered an ordinance that would regulate what we are calling vacation rentals, and that is when you have a short-term rental out of a residence which is not your primary residence. So you may own a second home in the city, you may own another condo or something like that in the city. So this would, right now, that's not allowed under the current ordinance that the city has adopted. This is something that was considered by the City Council when they at one point in time, but what did not move forward and what moved forward was the home sharing ordinance. So this was considered by the Planning Commission. It was recommended for approval with certain conditions and limitations, and those will be forwarded to the City Council and to this committee for this committee's considerations in the future. That really concludes my report, and happy to answer any questions.
Excellent. Questions or comments, members? On that item, Mr. Bertoni, did staff have a recommendation on that for that?
Sure. So there's a recommendation in terms of limiting it. The original recommendation was that it had to be occupied on an occasional or intermittent basis by the owner. It could not be a unit that is set aside for affordable, whether it's deed restricted for affordable, or a rent stabilized unit. It could not have been removed from the rental market through the Ellis Act in the past 17 years, was not allowed in accessory dwelling units, and the property owner would be limited to one rental permit per year, one vacation rental permit and 30 days of booking per year. There was a citywide cap at around 3,600 units that was in place, and with as well as some additional restrictions. With the commission, and I believe that citywide cap, and all the percentage here was 0.25%. What the City Planning Commission's action was to modify that to raise the cap from 0.25% to 1% of the city's total housing units, increase the number of nights that could be hosted from 30 days to 90 days. They also asked for just additional information and research that we do, that we'd present to that we'd have at least available for the Planning and Land Use Management Committee, which included regarding vacation rental listings. There's an issue about, how do we look at the ownership as individual units or trusts or LLCs. Some issues regarding what is kind of a tipping point between short-term rental and long-term rentals in terms of profitability. So when is it a point where you can make enough money off of a short-term or a vacation rental where you don't need to use this as a unit throughout the rest of the year? Issues regarding documentation, that it truly is a second home rather than an investment property, and some questions regarding whether or not any of the fees generated through that the city would generate through this program, whether it could be used for affordable housing or homeless services. So we're right now doing some of the research that we'll have available. So we'll be transmitting the ordinance along with the research that the commission requested.
Thank you so much. If there are no other questions and comments, we'll continue item number 1 and move to item number 3.
Item 3, Councilman, this is a motion. Huizar Rodriguez, it's instructing the Cultural Heritage Commission to consider an application for historic cultural monument designation for the Desmond's department store in CD14.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I think we have a representative to speak whose name is probably not Melissa Jones.
Hello, Chair Harris Dawson. Good afternoon. Lambert Giesinger with the Department of City Planning, Office of Historic Resources. This is a council motion initiating designation of the property at 612 South Broadway, the Desmond's department store. So upon your action and full City Council's approval, this will be initiated as an historic cultural monument and be reviewed by the Cultural Heritage Commission.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We have a representative from Council District 14.
Members, Shaylee Papadakis, Council District 14 Planning Deputy. We respectfully request that some language be added to this motion to slightly amend it to just simply instruct the Planning Department to process a Mills Act application in 2020 for this same item.
Excellent. All right, we have one public comment speaker on this, Elizabeth Peterson.
Thank you. Elizabeth Peterson, applicant's representative. The subject site is located at 6th and Broadway facing the Los Angeles Theater and nestled between the commercial WP Story building at 610 South Broadway and the historic Schwab's Cafeteria. Nearly a century ago, 612 Broadway was home to Desmond's department store, a prominent apparel and retailer that eventually went out of business. Around 1983, a new anchor tenant was Payless Shoes, but it was only on the ground floor and the rest of the building was sat vacant for over 40 years. The building is known for its distinctive terracotta face with twisting columns, balconies, and an ornamental podium. The iconic building contributes to the historic value of the Broadway Theater District and is featured on the National Register of Historic Places. The preservation of this building will bring vibrancy to Broadway. We're very supportive of the council members' request. Thank you.
Thank you so much. If there's no questions or comments from the members, I'll move that we adopt as amendment as requested by Council District 14. Is there a seconded by Mr. Blumenfeld? Without objection, that'll be the order. Thank you. That takes us to item number 4.
Councilman, item 4 is a report from the West LA APC. It includes an appeal by Miguel Bravo as to the adequacy of the categorical exemption. It includes interior and exterior renovations and a change of use from a church to a single-family dwelling.
Yes.
Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Juliette O. The item before you is an appeal of case number ENV 2017-1896-CE. The APC, the West LA APC, denied the appeal and sustained the action of the Director of Planning in August of 2018. The appellant today provides the following arguments. The size and scale of the resulting single-family dwelling will have a cumulative impact on the mass scale character of the neighborhood and will have an economic, social, and racial impact on the area. The appellant states the existing structure and Oakwood planning districts are historic districts, and the conversion of the church to a single-family dwelling would have an impact on the historic resources. And lastly, the appellant argues for a comprehensive SEQA review by the city. The project poses no substantial change to the massing height or scale of the existing structure. As such, the project would not have a cumulative impact on the neighborhood. The proposed change of use would result in a residential use that is appropriate and permitted in the RD 1.5-1 zone within an existing structure. The categorical exemption was determined to be the appropriate environmental clearance for the project and qualifies for a CE under CEQA Guidelines Section 15301, which allows for the operation, repair, maintenance, and minor alteration of existing structures, and under Sections 15303, which allows for a single-family dwellings. The exceptions outlined in Section 15300.2 do not apply to the project, and social economic impacts are not reviewed under the exemptions or exceptions. While the appellant argues the project would impact historic resources, no such resources were identified for the site. The existing structure was constructed from 1966 to 1971 and previously housed the First Baptist Church of Venice. The structure is located within the Oakwood sub-area of the Venice specific plan. And while Survey LA identified the Oakwood sub-area as a planning district, the survey provides that the sub-area does not retain sufficient integrity or cohesion to qualify as a historic district. In addition, the applicant submitted a historic resource assessment prepared by Architectural Resources Group dated July 27, 2018. The HRA determined the property and structure is not a historic resource, that is not eligible for listing in the National or California Register, and is not eligible as a local historic cultural monument, nor as a contributor to a potential historic district. The report was reviewed by the Office of Historic Resources, and the OHR found the report was prepared by a qualified consultant and conforms to the report preparation requirements of the Secretary of the Interior, and further concurred with the findings and conclusions of the HRA. An application to nominate the property as a historic cultural monument was submitted to the OHR in September of 2018. The CHC voted to take the application under consideration, and following a site visit, the CHC voted to decline the application at the meeting of December 2018. Staff therefore recommends denial of the appeal of the categorical exemption and is available if you have any questions. In addition, Lambert Giesinger with the Office of Historic Resources is also available.
Thank you so much. Anything for the good of the order, Mr. Roble? All right. Thank you all for your report. We're joined for the record by Councilmember Curran Price of the new 9th District, and we have a full complement of 5 members of our committee present and accounted for. We'll call up for 4 minutes and 59 seconds or less our appellant, Miguel Bravo, to open our conversation.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Miguel Bravo. I'm a 5th-generation Venetian, also a Purepecha from Michoacan, and I'm here to represent Venetians of many generations, and past generations and future generations of all different ethnicities in Venice. And I say that as to give context. Context is very important in every decision that we make, and especially historical context to know where we're at. So. With that, CEQA Statute 15300.2b regarding cumulative impact states that all exemptions are inapplicable when the cumulative impact of successive projects of the same type in the same place over time is significant. With this single-family dwelling at 11,607 square feet in a neighborhood where the average house is 1,704 square feet, that's 7 times the size of the average house in the area, and it's sitting on 7 lots, not 3. There has never been a better candidate for a comprehensive CEQA ERI analysis. This project in itself, let alone successive projects of this nature, will clearly set a disturbing precedent that will have a detrimental effect on the community. As per Survey LA, the Oakwood Plan District is significant as a rare, it says, the Oakwood Plan District is a significant as a rare example of an early 20th century African-American enclave in Venice. Despite its significance, the city concluded that Oakwood Plan District does not possess sufficient integrity to qualify as an historic district. Survey LA states, however, that as the district continues to convey the feeling of an early 20th century residential neighborhood and retains a strong association as an African-American enclave with many 3rd, 4th, and 5th generation residents, this area may warrant special consideration for local planning purposes. That's per Survey LA. So here we have the Oakwood sub-area of Venice with HPOZ potential, but because of the ongoing gentrification damage to its historical integrity, it has not officially achieved that status. Today, City of LA just recognized the historic status of the Oakwood Women's Club, which I believe you voted on a few weeks ago as well, at 1209 6th Avenue, which is just 2 blocks from the historic First Baptist Church 7-lot property, which sits in the center of Honorable Bishop Yelholm Square, a square that sits in the center of the Oakwood neighborhood that Survey LA says warrants special consideration. One person nonchalantly bypassing a CEQA study in a culturally sensitive neighborhood within the coastal zone using a controversial Venice sign-off that contains false information and which should be rescinded is not special consideration. The issued Venice sign-off in this instance is invalid because the project contains false information. A couple of them points being the project is actually 7 lots, not 3 lots. It is also incorrectly listed as new construction when it is not new construction. Section 30006 of the Coastal Act also states that the public has a right to fully participate in decisions affecting coastal planning, conservation, and development. That achievement of sound coastal conservation and development is dependent upon public understanding and support, and that continuing planning and development should include the widest opportunity for public participation. The issued VSO sign-off grossly infringes on this coastal statute. Regarding the adaptive reuse, this is not eligible for adaptive reuse. As per the LA Adaptive Reuse Program Summary, it says, quote, adaptive reuse means adapting an existing economically obsolete building for a new, more productive purpose. The changes are substantial physical alterations that modify the building's original intended use. For the City of Los Angeles Adaptive Reuse Program, an adaptive reuse project means converting an existing building to new apartments, condos, live-work spaces, or hotel rooms, unquote. So all adaptive reuse projects approved have been for public benefit, not for individual privatized gain. The applicant's single-family home, which is 7 times the size of the average home in the area, is hyper-deviation from the intent of adaptive reuse, where it seeks to turn a historically communal space designed for hundreds of people into a space for individual use. Your correct and logical decision to say yes to a comprehensive ERI CEQA review is 100% in sync with your role as lead agency to not only protect the environment, but also to demonstrate to the public of a unique and fragile economic, social, and historical coastal area that it too is being protected as required in CEQA section 15003B. In the Oakwood sub-area of Venice, where historically public policy was constructed to limit the opportunity of African Americans and acknowledgement of the current climate of rapid displacement of African Americans, Native Americans, and other historically marginalized peoples. Can I get 20 seconds?
One more sentence.
Here you have the opportunity to make a decision that's consistent with the criteria for providing an EIR. You also have the opportunity for history to remember you guys as the vanguard in reinforcing California's new era of environmental justice policies, bringing balance to the force of historic inequities surrounding disadvantaged communities, of which Oakwood sub-area definitely is. Thank you for your time.
All right. We have Elisa Pastor to speak for 5 minutes or less.
Good afternoon, Chair Harris-Dawson and members of the committee. I hope I will take much less than 5 minutes of your time. I'm Elisa Pastor. I'm here representing the property owners of this property, and they are here with me today and will speak. The matter before you today is a CEQA appeal of a categorical exemption, and I think it's important to keep that in mind. This is a change of use to a former church building. Now, the new owners have been part of the Venice community for a long time, and this project was fully supported by both the Land Use Committee and the full Neighborhood Council. My clients are excited to transform this old building into a multi-generational home, something that has happened across the world with many other churches. Now, the central basis of the appeal is that the building or the area is potentially historic. The city has already found, and the Cultural Heritage Commission has held 2 public hearings and found that the building itself is not historically significant. Therefore, there's no basis and there's no actual evidence that the district is historic. Appellants also claim that the project violates the mass scale and character of the area. Even if this was a CEQA issue, this is unfounded because the building itself is going to remain. We have worked very closely with the council office, and they have very much held our feet to the fire to require that the facade and the form of the building basically stay as is. And so here we have, this shows what the old building looks like and then what the new facade will look like, and we have agreed in a letter to the council office and into the file, that we will work very closely with council office during the time of the construction to keep this promise. Now, the new owners bought this property from the congregation of the First Baptist Church of Venice, and that was led by Bishop Horace Allen. The congregation and the bishop have supported this project. They have come to other hearings, especially at the APC, to express their support. And The congregation had planned to sell this property for a long time before my client showed up. They chose to do that to raise funds for a newer and better facility in nearby Westchester. No one forced them to move. They chose to move on their own. And again, they've been very supportive of this project because of all of the things it has allowed them to do in their new congregation. And that has included starting a youth ministry and expanding their homeless services program. All of the contentions regarding CEQA are unfounded to the extent that there are any actual economic or social impacts, which there are not. Those are not cognizable by CEQA. So we would respectfully request that you deny this appeal and allow our clients to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, we have a number of public comment speakers on this matter. You'll each have a minute to speak on it. Matt Fisher, Ingrid Miller, Pamela Anderson, David Bush.
Hi, my name is Matt Fisher. I'm a member of the Venice Neighborhood Council, but I'm here representing myself today. Firstly, I'd like to point out we have a petition on change.org that has 33,000 plus signatures that say they do not want this project. These people are not members of our community. This was an illegal sale. The congregation was made up of homeless people, and they just basically scammed us and sold this property. I ask that you table this matter and look a little deeper into it, because this not only deserves an EIR, it doesn't deserve to be a single-family home. This should be looked at much further. Thank you.
I'm Ingrid Miller, a 31-year renter in Venice, in East Venice. I'm passionate about this. We cannot lose this beacon of light in our community. It's been ripped out, and all the leftover congregations that have been there up to 5 generations, their hearts are bleeding. I know it's emotional that I'm saying. The other thing that is most important is that this project needs a complete, full, open environmental impact report, the negative cumulative impact on the community since this fraudulent sale must be repaired. Thank you.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is David Bush. I'm a homeless person residing in Venice since 1980. I first moved there as a middle-class bus mechanic to one of the most unique and racially diverse coastal communities in the state of California. That's acknowledged in all the reports about this issue. And so to say this isn't a historic decision, this decision itself is history. We're talking about the wipeout of the black and brown middle class in the last 30 years in LA, the destruction of affordable housing in these modest homes. This is one of the most controversial developments anywhere in the city of LA. And it doesn't deserve any more shortcuts. It deserves a full public process. That's what we're asking for today. Let's make sure that this thing gets a full public process, that history isn't brushed under the rug. You've got Survey LA saying that it is historic, and you've got the city saying it's not. The historians are disagreeing on this. Let the public weigh in. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, yes.
Pamela Anderson, 6th generation Venetian, one of the first black families in Venice. We've got over like 4,000 people in Venice. We have over 32,000 signatures supporting First Baptist Church. This was a cultural spot. This is representation of the black culture of Venice. We're asking that you guys support and hear us to save our church and make it a historical, cultural community site. You know, we have nothing left. This is all that we have. That was allocated to us as a gift for building and producing and clearing up the land down there. This was a gift that the city gave to the people of color. And now they're taking that away. We have nothing left. We're just asking to preserve that one little piece of Venice that we have left, representing the people of color that helped build that community and part of making it unique. You know, everybody wants to come in and take, you know, they're running us with this Ellis Act stuff. I mean, you know, all I can say is just please support us. Just support
Pinsky.
us. Thank you.
Diego Martinez, thank you.
We're asking that you make E.L. Holmes Square a historical landmark.
Elodia, Robert Thibodeau, Sandra Bine, George Francisco.
Good afternoon. I'm Elaine Penske. I'm one of the owners. My husband and I purchased the Westminster property to create a home for our extended family, a place to raise our young daughter, a home for my 2 older boys, and a place for my parents who are unable to live on their own so we could give them some assistance. When we purchased the property, the structure itself was in disrepair. We understood that, which was part of the factor that the former owners, the First Baptist Church of Venice, chose to sell the property to not have to incur all of the upkeep and to relocate to another property. We intend to use the existing structure to keep the integrity and the character of the building and to work within the existing volume. Of course, all of the other prospective buyers wanted to tear it down. I feel that by retaining the structure and building within, we are the far more environmentally friendly option. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Diego Martinez, and I supported the project for the change of use. The building has been vacant for more than 10 years. Therefore, whoever is actually going to come, it's going to do something about it. So I believe that the Penske family could become a really good part of the community around. So thank you.
Hi, my name's Robert Thibodeau. I'm the architect for the project. I've heard a lot of sort of misinformation being passed around by the other side there. I'm in support of the project. We've worked real hard with the Coastal Commission, with OHR, and with the Planning Department and even the First Baptist Church themselves. They sold the property because they couldn't maintain it anymore because they had dropped. There weren't people going to church anymore. There are too many churches in the area, not enough people going. So they got a smaller facility, and they took the money that they got in order to support so they could continue the church. This was a positive thing. The appellants are trying to make it sound like a negative thing. This was a win-win. We're keeping the building. We supported the church. The people who were opposing us never went to this church. Thank you.
Going to be quiet in the audience. Folks didn't talk while you were talking, so yes.
Hi, my name is Sandra Bine. I work for the architect Robert Thibodeau. I'm in support of this project. I've also been drafting this project and working closely with Lambert of OHR to come up with something that everyone's happy with. And in the end, what we're showing you on the board is, as Elaine said, we're keeping the existing structure and working from within, and he's happy with that. So thank you for your time.
Good afternoon. My name is Elodia Garcia, and I'm for the appeal of the historic First Baptist Church of Venice. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim Merez, Margaret Malloy, Christopher Quintal, Wayne from Encino. It's your warning, Mr. Spindler, your first and last warning. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, James Merez for the record. Venice resident for the past 35 years, Los Angeles native of almost 70 years.
I'm sorry, did I call your name?
Yes.
James Harris?
Well, you said Jim Merez. Sorry.
Oh, Jim Merez, got it. Go ahead,
You
my
know,
bad.
601.
I dig it.
Some say tomatoes, okay. So yeah, I just want to make the point that across the street, there's actually a community center and a park that the community uses for events. I'm on the neighborhood council. I'm not speaking for the neighborhood council, but the neighborhood council has regular meetings there. The concept of removing a community space from the community, they left by their choice. And I just want to make the point that they don't have to keep this structure there that some people think is historic and some isn't. They could theoretically build a bunch of new boxes, probably some affordable, some not, but the market would decide that in their pocketbook. I support the project. I think they should be able to do what they want. Thank you.
Thank you.
Margaret Malloy, I support the appeal. The planning application was fundamentally flawed. It's 7 lots. That's the legal description in the back of the case file. It's not mentioned once in either planning description. Both planning approvals need to be rescinded. Ken Bernstein is on record. It's on YouTube, October 13th, 2016, talking about cumulative impact. Regardless of what has been approved in the past, you need to look at cumulative impact. We're looking at the intersection of this and the environmental justice policy of the Coastal Commission. It is the cumulative impact of the loss and lack of recognition of Black history in Venice, as well as the loss of diversity, socioeconomic and cultural in Venice. It is incumbent upon you to request a full AIR. Neither the councilman or anybody else gets to decide what is history. Keeping a facade that's now termed, restoration, no, that's not a historic monument.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Christopher Quintel. I was a real estate agent who handled the sale transaction for 685 and 688 Westminster Avenue. I'm speaking today as the person with the most intimate knowledge of anybody regarding the sale of the property and the church's relocation. The church legally sold this property on February 15, 2017. There was a court action concurrent with that, and the court has already found that this property was a perfectly legitimate sale. It's a matter of public record. They had already relocated to another location 1 year prior to the sale of Westminster Avenue. They are a 501c nonprofit corporation in good standing with the Secretary of State of California. They are a private corporation that sold the land that they own to a private buyer for the benefit of their organization. Their right to relocate their congregation and exercise their First Amendment rights to practice their religion as they choose is not determined by the wishes of the protest group and is of no consequence to the proposed adaptive reuse project. I respectfully request that you deny the wishes of the appellant group and allow the Penske family to proceed with the project that the city has already approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, George Francisco. I missed my name being called earlier. I'm a longtime resident of Venice. I'm here today to hope that you will deny the appeal and to affirm the good work of the Cultural Affairs Commission. I'd also like to have you realize that at every level of deliberation, this project has been approved. At every appeal, it's been defeated. I would hope you would very simply follow the law and deny the appeal. Thank you very much.
Yes, Happy New Year, plum blood suckers. So, we got Ken Bernstein eradicating the last remnants of black folks from Venice, getting rid of every historical ability and proof that the men and women of color were over in the 11th district where all these rich white motherfuckers are buying lofts. That's what they call them. And John Lee knows it's wrong, doesn't he? But he will not speak. Gil Cedillo knows it's wrong, and he will not speak. And, of course, Kern Price knows it's wrong, but he will not speak because he's under FBI investigation. So the only man who can save us is Blob Bleebenblield from the 3rd District. Save our remnant. Save this. Declare it cultural, historic, and keep the memory of it.
That's your time. That concludes public comments on this matter.
I thought that I was giving up my 1 minute on public comment. I didn't know that I didn't have 2 minutes on public comment. I signed up to speak on this. I would appreciate if I could have my minute.
Let's do it.
Thank you. What we have here is a failure to communicate honestly by the people who illegally purchased a church, a black historical church over 100 years old. I love it when white people try to tell us our history or have permission to buy it and erase it, because the decision to not make this a historical relevant building and site was based on 2 books written about Venice by 2 white men. What we're talking about here is paid for systematically white supremacy. Nothing short of. And the people sitting in the back row behind them and next to them should be charged for the RICO Act because they have bullied and harassed elders, aunties, people who have migrated from Arkansas, Texas, and Louisiana during and before, during, and after the time of Jim Crow laws. If this happens today, if you allow this, we need the CEQA, we need the EIR, because it's the right thing to do. If you allow this to happen, it's just a notch in their belt, and their ancestors are happy, while ours weep.
All right, I think that concludes public comment. We'll ask a representative from Council District 11 to come forward, the auspicious Mr.
Thank you,
Lin
Chair
Nguyen.
Harris Dawson. Lun Nguyen, Senior Planning Deputy for Councilmember Bonin, with a statement on his behalf. The proposed project, like many in Venice, is controversial, touching not just on land use entitlements, but also issues of gentrification and neighborhood character. As a result, this project has been discussed, debated, and argued about for years. The council member first became aware of this project in August 2017 when he was speaking and attending the Venice Resistance Rally, objecting to the hatred and racism of the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville earlier in the week. A number of people told him that the former First Baptist Church in Venice, a longtime African-American congregation in the community, was threatened with demolition. He committed to try to save the church building from demolition. For decades, the First Baptist Church of Venice served as a robust congregation in the historic African-American neighborhood of Oakwood. However, in recent years, the congregation suffered from dwindling numbers in addition to significant costs for maintenance and upkeep of the church property. The congregation now worships at a new home elsewhere on the west side in Westchester. A number of today's appellants challenged the legitimacy of that sale, but the suit did not prevail. It is our office's understanding that when the building was for sale, a number of potential buyers expressed interest in acquiring the property, demolishing the church building, and building something else entirely. The church leadership states that it sold the church building and properties to the only potential buyer who did not plan to demolish the structure. Many people, including the appellants, would like the building to continue to serve as a thriving church for the community. However, the congregation legally sold the property, and the city does not have the authority to compel them to keep the property or to require the property owners to sell to a different congregation. While the city cannot preserve the congregation, it can act to preserve the structure. Just a few blocks away, the nearby Monday Women's Club, which also played a vital role in Venice's African-American history, also faced demolition. The Cultural Heritage Commission found that it qualified as a historic cultural landmark, and at the Councilmember Bonin's urging, the City Council ratified that finding. The Commission did not make a similar finding for the former First Baptist Church, but the Council member nevertheless insisted that the structure and the building facade be preserved in acknowledgement of the significance to the neighborhood and of its historic African American community. The new owners did agree to create a monument for the neighborhood's African American history. This issue has been delayed repeatedly because the council member did not feel the designs for the building met that commitment to preserve the structure and historic facade, and he insisted that the project not move forward until it did so. Through repeated meetings with city officials, the designs have been reworked. The revised design, which was submitted to the public record on January 6th, does preserve the facade and meets the commitment to preserve the structure. We are grateful to the owners and their team for agreeing to the new design. Therefore, Councilmember Bonin supports the revised project before you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roble. Ms. O, any responses to specific issues brought up by testimony? Any questions or comments from members? Seeing none, I'll move that we deny the appeal filed by Mr. Bravo and sustain the West LA APC's determination in approving the categorical exemption and related CEQA findings as the environmental clearance for the proposed interior and exterior renovations and the change of use for the property located at 685 Westminster Avenue. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Blumenfeld. Without objection, that'll be the order. Thank you all so much, and thank everybody who drove here and parked to be a part of this conversation. That moves us to item number 5, Mr. Mejia.
Item 5, Councilman, this is a motion, Bonin, Koretz. It's instructing planning along with DWP, housing, and the city attorney to evaluate the accuracy of the vacancy within the Palms Mar Vista community plan area if it's under 5%, and also to report back on the impact on RSO units and the findings to as it relates to the vacancy rate and the cumulative impacts and the impact on Ellis Act clearances.
All right, we have a representative from Council District 11 to speak on this.
Good afternoon, council members. Thank you for allowing me to speak on this incredibly important issue today. I'm Krista Klein, Deputy Chief of Staff overseeing policy and legislation for Councilman Bonin, speaking on his behalf today. We're facing an affordable housing emergency in Los Angeles. In the 11th District, the impact of condo conversions on rental housing stock, including RSO units, has become extreme. As you all know, the Ellis Act allows property owners to say they're going out of the rental business and evict their tenants, most often to do condo conversions. The city's municipal code allows the denial of condo conversion applications under certain circumstances, namely if the rental vacancy rate is below 5% and if there's a negative cumulative impact upon rental housing in the area. Make no mistake, Councilmember Bonin's motion is an effort to put a moratorium on condo conversions and Ellis Act evictions in large parts of CD11 by asking Planning and HCID to report back on the following: directing departments to verify that the vacancy rate in the impacted area is less than 5%, directing departments to quantify the cumulative impact of condo conversions in the impacted area on rental housing, and if those two requirements are met with data, direct planning and the city attorney to make the proper legal findings to cease issuing permits for condo conversions in the impacted areas of CD11. The continued displacement of rent-stabilized renters and the continued destruction of rent-stabilized units is driving an urgent need to protect existing affordable housing and vulnerable tenants throughout the west side of Los Angeles, and that's what Councilmember Bonin's legislation is designed to do. Respectfully request that you amend the motion to ask that the report backs on the issue include 2 more neighborhoods in Council District 11, Brentwood and Pacific Palisades, so that every neighborhood in Councilman Bonin's district is included in this effort. We ask that you approve this motion with your requested amendments today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And I believe we have a report from planning staff, Rebecca Valdez.
Good afternoon, Rebecca with Planning Department. At this time, we do not have a report. As indicated in the motion, we will work with HCID and DWP to report back to committee.
All right, thank you so much. We have a number of public comment speakers on this matter. Matt Fisher, Jose Estrada, David Reinman, Carlos Aguilar, David Bush.
Hello again, Matt Fisher. I would like to encourage this, but I would like to suggest that we put a moratorium on the Ellis Act thing, the evictions, so people don't start jumping the boat right now like we did before when everybody had the mass eviction thing. Thank you.
Buenas tardes.
Mr. Mejia can translate.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es José Estrada.
Good afternoon, my name is Jose Estrada.
Soy miembro de Power,
I am a member of Power,
una organización comunitaria
a community organization
que defendemos los inquilinos.
that advocates for tenants.
En esta oportunidad estamos apoyando la moción que está presentando el concejal Mike Bonney
At this moment, we're in support of Councilman Bonin's motion
para poner un stop a la famosa acta de Ellis.
To put a stop to Ellis Act evictions.
Es una ley que está perjudicando a miles de familias.
The Ellis Act is impacting thousands of community members.
Es una ley disfrazada para desalojar a muchas familias. Por eso estamos apoyando.
Un momento, señor. It is a law that basically evict tenants in the neighborhood.
Por eso estamos apoyando la proposición del concejal Mike Bonney. Gracias.
That is why we're in support of Councilman Bonin's motion. Thank you.
Carlos Aguilar, Coalition for Economic Survival. We fully support this motion and thank Councilmember Bonin and Koretz for it. What we are dealing with is not a housing crisis, it's a catastrophe, and bold action is needed. While this condo provision has applied to converting existing rental structures through the subdivision process, this process should not be extended to demolitions. There's no reason that developers who purchases to evict, demolish RSO units, and build luxury condos should be rewarded by being exempt from this process. Now, let's be clear. We need the Ellis Act to be abolished. It's caused the loss of over 26,000 RSO rental units since 2001. But until that happens, please note that the Ellis does not limit the city's land use powers. Here's a concrete opportunity to expand our land use powers to protect our diminishing rent-controlled affordable housing. We urge that you include this aspect in the request to report back and look into expanding this citywide. Thank you.
Hello, my name is David Ryman. I serve on the South Robertson Neighborhood Council, and I am a tenant who actually last week was served with Ellis Act eviction papers. Before that, I had been supporting neighbors who likewise were going through the Ellis Act, and many of these tenants are disabled, low-income senior, and there's nothing that we can really do because this is a state law other than offer support, have dinners with them, and solace, helping them move. This is an opportunity for the city to look out for one another and allow people to stand up for their rights. And I just want to applaud Mike Bonin, Paul Kretz, and Stacy Scher for making this possible. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I called David Bush, Mike Bravo, Stacy Scher, Sandra Edie, Margaret Malloy, Sandra Eddy, Michael Klima, Deborah Hocher, my apologies, and Wayne from Encino. Yes.
Hi, I didn't follow the order you called.
Just come on up if I called your name.
My name is Stacy Scher. I represent the Mar Vista Community Council. We have a CIS on file in support of Councilmember Bonin's and Koretz's report back ordinance, which they've amended to make it an ordinance that would, in effect, provide a moratorium while our vacancy rate is below 5%. I just wanted to advise that our Mar Vista Community Council is fully in support of this by unanimous vote. It bridged both sides of our aisle. And this is time sensitive and will not last forever. What we're doing is we're buying time. In Mar Vista, we have not voted no on a single development that's come before Plum in the last year and a half. In fact, we have an excess of 1,200 apartments in TOC or 1222A density developments that have been approved that will be coming on the market. In the meantime, our RSO evictions are outpacing the rate at which we are replacing affordable housing. So what we're asking for is the moratorium so that we can buy some time as we create more housing. Thank you for considering it.
Yes, good afternoon. I've not done this before. I'm a little shaky. My name is Sandra Eddy. I'm 82 and I'll be 83 in February. And I've been in my property, 12763 Mitchell, for going on 47 years. I raised my 2 children there, and everything I have is in that house. All my memories and all my own. I could be your grandmother. I could be your mother. I could be one of your family, and you're throwing me out in the street because back in the day when I worked for Nathan Chappelle at S&S Construction, he never treated people like this. He just didn't. And I turned around and I mean, I can't believe that they do this to us. We're seniors. I was making my Social Security. They just gave me a whole $18 a month to live on for a cost of living. I don't make enough to go get a home. I have to either get out of the state, go to Hemet, which I don't want to go to Hemet. And I mean, it's scary. It's scary out there. Anyway, thank you for listening to me, and I'm sorry I didn't handle this too well.
You were great. Just what we needed. Thank you.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Michael Klima. I've lived at 12763 Mitchell Avenue for 31 years. When I moved in, I had planned to retire there. Unfortunately, in March of 2019, there was an Ellis Act eviction on our apartment. and rent in the Mar Vista area is skyrocketing. I commend the City Council in considering this motion to prevent Ellis Act evictions in Palms, Mar Vista, and Delray, etc. And I support Mr. Bonin's motion. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Deborah Hatcher. I'm an attorney at Intercity Law Center located on Skid Row. I represent several of the clients, including the last two people who spoke, that live in Mitchell Avenue properties, who have lived there 20, 30, 40 years, who are going to be evicted. My clients fall into homelessness when they're evicted from the units that they have possessed for a very long time. I urge the council to reconsider the vacancy rate, and if it's under 5%, we have to have a moratorium on Ellis Act convictions, because that is the law. Thank you.
My name is Margaret Malloy. I support this initiative. It's one of the things coming from Councilman Bonin's office, which I can support. A rare day.
Happy New Year.
We're in a housing crisis. This is really important. Please support this.
Thank you. It's right. Today's the day. I'm going to support Mike Bonin on something that happened. It finally happened. It was predicted that it would happen. It's true that Paul Koretz really wrote the whole thing. It's true that John Lee tried to stop it. It's true that Gil Cedillo was threatened. But today, it's happening. It's happening. Finally, it's happening. And that's why Marchese knows the truth. The DWP lies. It lies. It artificially lies so people can throw people out of their homes. Just last year, I got my Ellis Act eviction notice. But then I remembered, I checked my paperwork, I own the building. So I canceled my Ellis Act eviction, and now I'm not homeless. Fuck all you developers. Thank you.
All right, that concludes public comment. Mike Bravo, David Bush. If you all wish to add to it, your names are on the list. All right. 1 minute, come on up.
Thank you again. I support the moratorium. Thank you.
Word. Thank you. All right. So I'll move that we adopt this matter as amended by Council District 11.
Yes, to include Brentwood and Pacific Palisades.
Yes, sir. It's been seconded by Mr. Blumenfield. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none. Without objection, that'll be the order. That takes us to item number 7.
Item 7, Councilman, is a report from the Planning Department. It also includes an appeal as it relates to adequacy of the categorical exemption for a conditional use associated with the construction of a 139-room hotel in CD14.
All right, Mr. Mejia, members, there's been a request to continue this. Oh, so we'll go through the process. All right, so I guess we'll hear from staff. Mr. Tovar.
Good afternoon, council members. So just to be clear, the request to continue is not on the table?
Just proceed with your report. I think we're going to come to that later.
Good afternoon, council members. So the appeal before you concerns the development of a new boutique hotel containing 139 guest rooms with on-site accessory uses that include a ground floor restaurant, a lobby bar, and a rooftop bar. The site is located on the east side of Broadway in downtown LA between 11th and 12th Street and abuts a substandard 12-foot wide alley to the rear. The hotel will provide valet service on Broadway, and access to the hotel's parking garage will be provided from the alley. There will be no self-parking by hotel guests. Only parking attendants will park vehicles in the garage. The hotel use is permitted by right and is not subject to a conditional use. The project is an infill development and has been issued a Class 32 categorical exemption pursuant to CEQA Guidelines Section 15332. My decision was appealed to the Central Area Planning Commission, and the APC failed to act due to a lack of a quorum. The underlying site plan review and conditional use entitlements only have one level of appeal and are not before you today. So the only matter before the committee today is the project's environmental clearance. The project meets all of the required criteria for an infill development project to be eligible for a Class 32 categorical exception. In addition, none of the exceptions to a categorical exemption set forth under CEQA Guidelines Section 15300.2 apply to the site. The appellant owns 4 lots across the alley from the subject site plan for a mixed-use development that includes a subdivision that will require widening of the alley pursuant to Section 1705 of the Division of Land Regulations. The crux of the appeal is the appellant's desire to have the alley along the subject site's frontage widened. Now, the issues raised on appeal, council members, are as follows. 1, the appeal alleges that the project's exclusive vehicular access from the alley, which relies on car elevators rather than driveway ramps, combined with loading operations in the same location, will result in unmitigated traffic and safety impacts. The appellant also alleges that failure to require alley dedication and improvement is not consistent with the mobility plan. Therefore, the project is not consistent with the general plan. And then the appellant also alleges that the substandard alley constitutes an unusual circumstance that will result in significant environmental impacts. The hotel project on the subject site does not involve a subdivision and is only subject to dedication and improvement requirements pursuant to Section 12.37 of the Municipal Code. Section 12.37 applies to highways and arterial streets, but it does not apply to alleys. The project will be required to provide a 2-foot dedication on Broadway Street, but no dedication or widening is required on the alley. Now, the current mobility plan was adopted on September 7, 2016, and in 2017, various sections of the municipal code were amended to implement the updated mobility plan, including Section 12.37. One amendment to Section 12.37 allows the decision maker on a discretionary entitlement to require a dedication or improvement greater than what is set forth in Section 12.37 if the decision maker determines that a greater dedication or improvement bears an essential nexus and rough proportionality to a project impact. Thus, in connection with the underlying entitlement, I had the authority to require more dedication or improvement than required, provided there is a nexus. And to be clear, establishing an essential nexus and rough proportionality to a project impact is a very high bar that requires substantial evidence to justify a greater dedication or improvement than otherwise required. I want to point out that in amending Section 12.37, the amendment could have made it outright mandatory to widen substandard alleys, or it could have established a lower bar to allow a decision maker to require greater dedication or improvement than required, simply to improve circulation, for example. But unfortunately, it sets a high bar to prevent a taking or to prevent an applicant from being disproportionately burdened by requiring, and imposing a hardship on the project. So in this case, the burden is on the appellant to submit evidence that supports a nexus. The appeal cites a letter dated October 22nd, 2019 from a traffic engineer, Crane & Associates, which makes unsubstantiated claims that the use of the alley by the project and other properties on the block will, quote, foreseeably result in traffic blockages and or gridlock conditions and create public safety hazard, close quotes. The Crane & Associates letter makes conclusive statements but does not provide any factual or quantifiable evidence to support these claims. The letter provides absolutely no analysis, no traffic counts were conducted in the alley, no photos documenting any congestion issues in the alley were submitted. The letter provides no description of existing land uses on the block and their associated trip generation, and how, if at all, combined with project-generated traffic, would create gridlock conditions and safety hazards. On the other hand, a traffic study was completed for the proposed project that analyzed 4 intersections, and the study found traffic impacts to be less than significant and no mitigation is required. A memo dated May 23, 2018 was issued by the Department of Transportation indicating that, quote, based on DOT's traffic impact criteria, the proposed development will not result in any significant traffic impact at the 4 intersections that were identified for detailed analysis, close quotes. To be clear, the project's access from the alley is not an unusual circumstance and does not create a dangerous condition that poses a threat to public safety. Contrary to the appellant's claims, the project's design with access from the alley will actually promote public safety. The Downtown Design Guide encourages providing vehicular access to project sites from alleys when possible, in order to minimize curb cuts on streets and to minimize pedestrian vehicular conflicts. So locating access to the rear and locating loading activities to the rear improves public safety and avoids conflicts with pedestrians. It's important to note that the project's trip generation is relatively low. The traffic study estimates that the project will result in a maximum of 48 p.m. peak hour trips, which amounts to one trip either inbound or outbound every minute and 15 seconds. As stated, the project will provide valet service on Broadway, so the project trips will occur on Broadway, and a portion of the trips will be from rideshare or taxi drop-off and pickup, so the actual level of traffic in the alley will be even lower and will be lower still during off-peak hours. So this represents a significant amount of downtime between trips that provides a substantial amount of stagger time between vehicles, and it's just not conceivable that the project will create a gridlock condition in the alley, let alone create a safety hazard. Nothing in the Crane & Associates data contradicts the project's traffic study, and there is no conflicting expert opinion here, only speculation and unsubstantiated claims. Beyond that, council members, it's my assessment that the existing land uses on the block where the subject site is located are not intense and do not contribute significant levels of traffic to the alley. I'm not going to elaborate on that in the interest of time. I'll move on to the final point regarding the appellant's contention that the substandard alley constitutes an unusual circumstance that will result in significant environmental impacts. There are plenty of substandard alleys throughout the city, and these alleys are widened and improved on a case-by-case basis depending on the applicable regulations. If the regulations don't apply, we don't always have the opportunity to secure the widening that we want on an alley. And substandard alleys are certainly not uncommon in the Central City Community Plan. There are substandard alleys on the blocks directly to the north and northwest of the subject site. Some substandard alleys in Central City have been converted to one-way alleys to improve circulation. And in fact, there are several one-way alleys in close proximity to the subject site along between 11th and Olympic and between Hill and Broadway, as well as between Olympic and 9th and between Hill and Broadway as well. So the site's location next to a substandard alley in downtown LA, which is otherwise served by a fully improved street circulation network, does not constitute an unusual circumstance. And most important, for reasons previously discussed, it certainly is not an unusual circumstance that results in any significant environmental impacts. I do want to point out that it's my understanding that the applicant has been in discussions with Bureau of Engineering and DOT to possibly convert the alley to a one-way alley, which would certainly help improve circulation. My apologies, council members, there's one last appeal point that's important, and this has to do with the appellant's contention that failure to require alley dedication and improvement is not consistent with the mobility plan, and therefore the project is not consistent with the general plan. I want to point out, first off, that alleys and the city's adopted street standards are not part of the general plan. Therefore, this appeal point is moot. The mobility plan does reference the adopted street standards for all roadway classifications in the city, which establish a minimum 20-foot width for alleys. The street standards are adopted by the City Planning Commission as a companion document, but they are not embedded in the mobility element. In the future, if it's determined that the street standards need to be modified to require wider or narrower rights-of-way, these standards can be modified by the City Planning Commission without the need to amend the general plan or the mobility element. What the mobility plan does do is it designates street classifications. And unlike street standards, if a street was proposed to be reclassified from one classification to another, this would require an amendment to the general plan. And that said, while alleys are part of the local circulation system, alleys are not designated in general plans and are not part of the mobility element or the general plan. For reference, page 20 of the MP 35 reads as follows. The citywide general plan circulation system maps establish the designated street classifications for arterial streets, scenic highways, divided streets, and depict modified segments as well. Any changes to these street designations would require a general plan amendment. Thus, the mobility plan addresses and designates various types of streets, but it does not address or designate alleys. In fact, a review of the Central City Community Plan and of the circulation map confirms that the subject alley is not designated, and footnote number 6 of the Central City Community Plan expressly states that local streets and alleys are only shown for reference, but they are not part of the plan. So again, council members, this appeal point is completely moot for these reasons. However, if that's not enough, for CEQA purposes, A project need only be compatible with the general plan and does not need to match every single general plan policy. There are competing plan policies among the various elements of the general plan, and a project cannot be expected to meet or promote every single policy. However, as long as the project is compatible with the general plan and does not frustrate any of the plan's policies or programs, then the project is consistent with the general plan. And here the property is zoned C2-4D and is designated for regional center commercial land uses. As stated, the hotel use is permitted by right. The proposed development is consistent with both the zoning and the planned land use and will add much-needed hotel guest rooms to downtown LA. The project is consistent with both the general plan and with the downtown LA design guide. Now, I'm not going to get into the other appeal issues, but I'm happy to address them if the committee members have any questions. In closing, I would simply urge the committee to deny the appeal and determine that based on the whole of the administrative record, the project is exempt from CEQA pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15332, and there is no substantial evidence demonstrating that an exception to a categorical exemption pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15300.2 applies. Thank you, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you so much. All right, we'll go ahead and hear from our appellant on this matter, Mr. Abshes, our representative.
Good afternoon, Alan Abshes from Loeb & Loeb, representing Frontier West, the appellant. We're here because the Central Area Planning Commission failed to have a quorum in time to hear our appeal of the site plan review and of the categorical exemption. And I just listened to a very long explanation from Mr. Tovar, and with all respect, I don't understand what he's talking about. Here we're talking about intensifying the use of the project site with a 139-room high-rise hotel, a restaurant that has 125 seats, a bar that has 200 seats on the roof, and Mr. Tovar thinks it's a good idea that we have a substandard alley 12 feet wide, barely aisled beyond the width of this aisle. That's our city planning, okay? Respectfully, that's bad planning, right? We don't want to intensify the use of our city and have substandard alleys that create permanent substandard conditions. None of you should want that. I don't believe you do. Also, this is another example of the city getting ready to lose another CEQA case. You cannot approve a categorical exemption for a project that is inconsistent with city standards. That standard is street dimension S-470-1, and you cannot approve a project that creates a potential traffic impact. And Crane & Associates, which is an expert traffic firm, has submitted testimony indicating that not only does the alley not meet standards, but that it will create a traffic impact that's only 12 feet wide, 2 cars can't pass. All of this project's loading is going to take place from the alley. This project doesn't have any parking lot ramps. Everything has to be loaded individually through a parking lot elevator. Loading has to occur out of that same entrance. The alley is only 12 feet wide. We're greatly intensifying the use of the site. In addition to that, your own Bureau of Engineering asked that Mr. Tovar require this dedication, and that's all in the record. It said provide a 4-foot dedication. So I have no idea why Mr. Tovar didn't do his job at site plan review and require the dedication as requested by the Bureau of Engineering and as required in order to issue a categorical exemption. So with us today is also Crane & Associates. I'm going to let them testify about the project's traffic impacts, but we're requesting that you set aside the categorical exemption, which can't be adopted for this project because it would create a permanent substandard condition in violation of the city's standards and would also create potential traffic impacts. Thank you.
Good afternoon. George Reiner with Crane & Associates. We were asked to take a look at the alley in the operations, and
I'm sorry, hold on. The clock's got to continue. Thanks.
And in looking at it, the basic problem you have is 2 vehicles are wider than 12 feet. They can't go past each other. We're putting loading trucks on. Loading trucks are even worse, trying to get past each other. In addition to which, you now are having vehicles having to turn to get to the parking. The turning radius, you're not allowed in a parking lot to have a aisle as narrow, any narrower than 24 foot. Now we're talking about 12 foot, half that width. So as you go through, it's not just the amount of traffic, it's any time you have two vehicles, one of which has to pass each other, there isn't room. They're taking, and now you're going to put restaurant parking underneath, which has a relatively high turnover. That's part of the hotel. In addition to having hotel guests, and you now have valet, they always want to get that car back to the patron. And suddenly, now you're having to have cars come past each other in a 12-foot alley, and they can't do it. That is what's going to create a dangerous situation. That's where they're trying to make work something that's too small today, and now you're going to add a substantial amount of additional traffic on it. So in looking through it, you have to consider what uses are they talking about putting there. They're talking about putting access to a parking structure turning. They're talking about loading oversized vehicles, and as Alan pointed out, take a look in this alley. Would you want, or this aisle, would you want?
Thank you.
All right, thank
All
you.
right, so could you restate your name again for the record?
George Reiner, Senior Transportation Engineer, Crane & Associates.
Thank you. All right, we have two public comment speakers on this item, Michael Shilstone and Fred Gaines. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. It's early in the year. My bad. We're going to hear from the applicant rep, Mr. Haynes. Come on up. 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, honorable members. Fred Gaines of Law Offices of Gaines and Stacy on behalf of the applicant. We appreciate very much the very detailed response provided by Mr. Tovar, and we agree with his conclusion and ask that you deny the appeal. What is before you is not what the appellant wishes was before you. As he stated in his first sentence, he's here because the site plan review was approved and he didn't like it. The site plan review is done. What's before you is whether or not a categorical exemption under CEQA was the correct environmental document for this particular action. This is a 139-room hotel, completely consistent with the plan and the zone by right under the zone. And so what was applied for here was an alcohol permit, a CUB, and a site plan review. And those went through the process, been approved, they're done, they're not in front of you. Determination today is the categorical exemption correct or incorrect for this particular project. Categorical exemptions are a little different. You get categorical exemptions when in fact you are doing an infill project that is consistent with the plan, with the zone, that doesn't require a conditional use permit or another kind of special discretionary approval for the actual use itself. In this case, no variance, no exception, no exemption, a by right project other than the alcohol permit and the site plan review. Fully conditioned, those actions have their full conditions of approval. So the issue before you is there substantial evidence to support the categorical exemption? This is not a case where the fair argument standard applies, where any argument could come up. You could line up 100 traffic consultants today. And if there is substantial evidence, in this case, traffic study approved by your Department of Transportation, which says that this approval is appropriate, if that evidence exists, which clearly it does, then the categorical exemption is correct. The appellant in this case is our neighboring property owner across the alley who is also developing a hotel. And unfortunately, these kinds of cases have become commonplace in terms of leverage between neighbors looking for some advantage or some condition of approval or some way to delay one project so that the other one goes forward. We have all of those elements in this case. But the one thing that they have asked for on a number of occasions is that we do this additional widening of the alley. This was not required by the city, as was fully explained by Mr. Tovar. I want you to know that the project is including that 4 feet additional widening of the alley. So we are now in plan check for our hotel project. The plans have been submitted to plan check. I have a copy here, and they include the 4 feet that has been asked for by this particular neighbor. It's not required under the approval, but we've put that in. So there's a full 10-foot half of the alley on our side of the alley, and when the adjacent property owner goes through, we assume they'll be required to do the 10 feet on their side. So there is no basis for you to grant this appeal. The categorical exemption is the correct environmental document. Substantial evidence supports it, as has been well detailed by Mr. Tovar and by the documentation that's in the file. The 4 feet, which seems to be the issue, at least even in the most recent letter from the appellants at the end, they said at least give us the 4 feet of additional dedication. We have included that in the plans for the project. So we ask that you deny the appeal, and we appreciate the time you've taken to hear the case today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gaines. We have one public comment speaker on this item, Mr. Shillstone.
Good afternoon. I'm Michael Shillstone with Central City Association. We support the appeal of 1140 South Broadway. The lack of an alley dedication or improvements would negatively impact downtown. It is in conflict with the city's municipal code, Mobility Plan 2035, and the Downtown Design Guidelines. As a community and a city, we have worked hard to create a planning framework that fosters a high-quality, livable urban environment. This is particularly salient in downtown. There have been a considerable number of development projects, and we try to ensure each one adds positively to our neighborhood. Approving this project would create a different, arbitrary set of rules that go against our collective efforts and vision for downtown. We ask you to reject this project as it is currently proposed, and instead, at a minimum, condition a 4-foot wide alley dedication. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That concludes public comment. If there's no discussion, members, given the comments raised during public comment, I want to move that we continue this item for 30 days to allow time to determine if the findings can be made to make a more appropriate ruling. Is there any discussion on this matter? Seeing none, that'll be the order, so we'll come back to this in 30 days. Mr. Mejia?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. That takes us to item number 8.
Item 8, Councilman.
Yeah. Donna Wong for the record. For this action, if the Plum Committee Chair could ask the applicant to come back up and assent to the continuance. I believe that there is, I don't know what the time to act is on this matter, but in abundance of caution, there should be a request for assent. If it's within the time frame, then no assent is required.
Thank you.
After 30 days. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Lee? Yes. Mr. Lee has suggested that we make a formal request to you all to meet to see if you all can resolve this matter. I assume that that's in everyone's interest and will happen. I got a smile. All right. So thank you so much, Mr. Lee. That moves us to item number 8.
Councilman, item 8 is a report from the Planning Commission. It includes a transfer of floor area rights for the demo of an existing parking lot and the construction of a 60-story mixed-use building with 700 residential units in CD 14.
All right. We have a report from the Department of City Planning. Mr. Sin and colleagues.
Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Michael Sin. I'm with Los Angeles City Planning. The project before you today is a 700-unit residential tower with ground floor retail in downtown Los Angeles. It's 60 stories, 760 feet in height, with 7 levels of subterranean parking and 4 above grade. So this project actually went before the Plum Committee back in June. At that time, the City Council denied appeals on the tract map, adopted the SKIA for the project. Since then, the CPC has acted on the TFAR, or transfer of floor area, voting on October 10th to approve the transfer plan to allow a 13-to-1 FAR. The CPC approved a 50% public benefit direct provision comprised of $3.594 million to the Pershing Square Improvement Fund, $2.3 million to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and $476,000 for enhanced streetscape improvements. The project was not appealed. The project is now before Plum once again, as the final transfer plan needs to be approved by City Council. Staff recommends that you find the project was assessed in the adopted SKIA and improve the transfer of floor area to allow a 13:1 FAR. Thank you.
Thank you so much. If there's nothing further, we'll ask our applicant rep for 5 minutes. Mr. Goldsmith.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Spector. I'm the Vice President of Development for Ani Group. I'm going to do my best Dale Goldsmith impersonation today because he is not here. But we want to thank staff for the very thorough job that they have done on the staff report. We agree completely with their recommendation. I have nothing further to add, and I'm available for questions if they come up.
Thank you so much. We have a representative from Council District 14.
Good afternoon, and thank you, council members. Also would like to extend our appreciation to staff for their thorough work, as always. On behalf of Councilmember Huizar, after careful consideration of the public benefits resulting from this proposed project and consistent with the public infrastructure improvement priorities of the district, he's requesting that condition 2.C, lower Roman numeral I-3, of the CPC's determination letter be amended to allocate the $2.3 million to the CD14 Public Benefits Trust Fund to be used for public benefits purposes as defined under ordinance number 181574. Here for your questions if you have any.
Thank you so much. We have a number of public comment speakers on this item. Mr. Shillstone, Gus Torres, Doug Summers, Omar Galindo.
Good afternoon again. Michael Shillstone with Central City Association. We're strongly supportive of the proposed Olympic and Hill project by Ani Group, which will replace a surface parking lot with a thoughtfully designed mixed-use housing and retail development. The project's 700 new units will provide more opportunities for many people to live near where they work in a transit-rich area. The building's design also promotes walkability. The approximately 15,000 square feet of ground floor retail will activate the sidewalk, and the parking podium is wrapped with residential units to provide articulation and eyes on the street, a design approach that can serve as an example for future developments. Ani Group is a great partner to downtown and has a track record of delivering high-quality projects. We look forward to their next contribution with this development in the South Park neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Omar Galindo, and I'm here on behalf of Plumbers Local 78. We support this project because the applicant has lived up to their commitment of working closely with the public and proposing a project that is compatible with the surrounding area and that benefits our community. The project also endures good-paying construction careers and guarantees a safe working environment for our workers. This is the type of project that helps people like myself be able to afford their own home and be able to provide for their family. So I urge you to please support this project. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Gus Torres. I'm here on behalf of UA Local 250 pipe fitters, welders, and apprentices, and we're here to support this project. The applicant on this project has a proven track record of building great projects in Los Angeles, and they have done so while using our local skilled workforce and responsible contractors. We know that they will do the same for this project. That's why on behalf of our 6,300 members, we urge you to support this project. Thank you for your time, and God bless.
Good afternoon. My name is Doug Summers. I represent UA Local 709 Fire Sprinkler Fitters, Los Angeles. The developer has made good commitments with the skilled crafts, providing a safe working environment, good middle-class wages and benefits. Los Angeles needs an owner-builder like Ani Group to continue to develop expansion. The project will bring much-needed life to an area that really needs a residential building in the South Park neighborhood. I strongly urge you to approve this project. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Jordan Chesetel, pardon me, Andrea Massa, Mark Spector, April Strosters.
Good
good afternoon, council members. My name is Jordan Ciccatelli. I'm with the Sheet Metal Workers Local 105. I'm here in support of this project. Ani Group is a high-quality builder that is exactly the type of project that should be approved in downtown. This group has proven record to successfully constructing and maintaining world-class properties here in LA, and this project will be no exception. On behalf of the Sheet Metal Workers, Local 105, we strongly urge you to approve this TFAR request, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is April Strassers, and I just want to say good afternoon, council members. It's good to be back. My name, also like I said, is April. We work with at-risk youth, veterans, and homeless, and actually anyone who's in need of a second chance, which I present behind me here today, including myself. It's very encouraging that the applicant has committed to supporting local workforce training development and local hire. For us at ARMS, it is an opportunity for our members to launch a career in the construction industry. We urge you to improve this project to give those in need of a second chance an opportunity to improve their lives. Thank you.
Jose Pina, Gina Burnett, Godfrey Wachira, Gio Galarza.
Hi, good afternoon, council members. My name is Jose Pina with Creed LA, and we strongly support this project because its ground floor is well thought out and it provides street activation to a currently dormant corner. The applicant has also committed to including great features such as rooftop solar panels, electric vehicle charging stations, energy-efficient appliances, and water-efficient landscaping to support and promote environmental sustainability. This is a great project for our city, and we strongly urge you to approve the TFAR request. Thank you.
Good afternoon, council members. Gina Burnett with Creed LA, and we strongly support this project. We like the fact that the architect is providing a unique podium design with the rack units on levels 3 and 4. We believe that this is an example for other projects to follow. The project will also create a pedestrian-friendly environment to the area that is currently bound by a dark alley and an empty paved parking lot. This project assists in fixing our housing crisis and creates a more welcoming environment. Therefore, we strongly urge you to approve the TFAR request. Thank you.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Gio Galarza, founder of I Love Homeless LA, and I support this project. The applicant is willing to turn an empty parking lot into a high-class building with 700 residential units. The project will not only contribute to downtown's reputation as an active, growing urban center, but also provide badly needed housing units into our city. I urge you to approve the TFAR request. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Good afternoon. My name is Godfrey Wachira with Creed LA. Given all the love and support that the project has gotten today, all I can say is I too support the TFAR request. Wish you all a happy new year. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That concludes exhaust our list of public comment speakers on this matter. Is there any discussion or questions from members on this item? If not, seeing none, I'll move that we find that the project was assessed in the Sustainable Communities Environmental Assessment number ENV 2019-1792-SCEA adopted on June 11, 2019 and pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines, sections 15162 and 15164. No subsequent environmental impact report, negative declaration, or addendum is required for the approval of the project, and that we approve transfer of floor area rights, or TFAR, from the Los Angeles Convention Center, the donor site at 1201 South Figueroa Street, for the approximate amount of 354,277 square feet to the project site, the received site, permitting a maximum of 13-to-1 floor area ratio in lieu of the maximum permitted 6-to-1 floor area ratio. Amend condition number 2 CI 3 of CPC 20164710 TDR to allocate $2.3 million to the CD14 Public Benefits Trust Fund as requested by Council District 14. Seconded by Mr. Price. Seeing no objection, that'll be the order. Thank you, staff and folks who showed up to weigh in on this matter. That takes us to item number 9.
Councilman, item 9 is a report from the Planning Commission. It includes a resolution for a general plan amendment and a zone change ordinance. It's an adaptive reuse of a former Fire Station 83 into a nonprofit community center in CD5.
Ms. Levy?
Good afternoon. My name is Michelle Levy with the Department of City Planning. I'll give a brief overview of the zone change and general plan amendment before you today at 5001 Balboa Boulevard. On September 26, 2019, the City Planning Commission recommended approval of a general plan amendment and zone change and approved public benefit alternative compliance for the rehabilitation and adaptive reuse of former Fire Station 83 into a nonprofit community center for the Armenian Cultural Foundation. The site will remain city-owned and leased by the foundation. The Commission recommended allowing the rental of the facility to the public or organizations for banquets, weddings, and other ceremonies limited to one event per month, subject to the terms of the lease agreement with the city, among other construction and operational conditions. The Armenian Cultural Foundation has since submitted a request to change the number of allowable events to up to 3 per month to sustain its finances. The department recommends the following actions: determine that the project is exempt from CEQA pursuant to state CEQA guidelines 15301, Class 1 and Class 31. Recommend that the City Council approve a general plan amendment to the Encino Tarzana Community Plan to change the land use designation of the site from public facilities to medium residential. Recommend that the City Council approve a zone change from QPF 1XL, that's the public facility zone, to QR3 1XL, and approve an alternative compliance for public benefit project to permit the proposed project with the following alternative methods from the performance standards that are in Section 1400 of the Municipal Code. To permit the project, an existing building being adaptively reused to be taller than structures on adjacent property, and to waive street improvements and dedications along the adjacent streets, alleys, and sidewalks from meeting required standard dimensions. And finally, to adopt the findings of the City Planning Commission. And with this, I conclude my presentation.
Thank you so much. We'll hear from our applicant rep, Mr. Hagopian. 5 minutes or less. Ms. Levy, if you could just slide a little bit so I can see the clock to the left or right, either way. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, council members. My name is Shant Hagopian. I'm here on behalf of the Armenian Cultural Foundation, which is the proposed leasee of the space. Back in 2013, I believe, this city council approved the city to get into a lease with the Armenian Cultural Foundation. We went ahead with those steps when we realized that the zoning was not proper, not just for our use, but for any use. And that's why we're back here today. The only thing that you can have on this property is a fire station or a police station. So in order for the ACF, which by the way is a recognized 501c3 nonprofit that operates community centers in California and the rest of the United States, that provides for services to the community, like the equivalent of the Boy Scouts of America, the equivalent of the Red Cross. In order for the ACF to occupy this space, we need to be able to change the zoning. I'd like to thank planning and planning staff for their tireless work. We agree with their findings, except for what was noted in the planning report, where we are requesting that the number of special events that we're able to charge a little sum of money, to be increased from 1 a month to 3 per month. And this is really, in respect to having to pay for our operating costs, If you're familiar with the project, old Fire Station 83 is dilapidated. The actual plumbing and the wiring have been stripped from the walls. The leasee, the ACF, is projected to spend upwards of $1 million for the rehabilitation. As a nonprofit, I'm sure you can understand that those costs we will incur willingly to bring our programming to the community. However, we do need the extension from one event to 3 events per month to help us pay for the costs. With that, I'm available for questions.
Thank you so much. Hear from a representative from Council District 5, Mr. Kleinman.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Aviv Kleinman, Planning Deputy for Council District 5. Councilmember Koretz is very supportive of the zone change application for the Armenian Cultural Foundation at 5001 North Balboa Boulevard. The council office has worked extensively with the Encino community and the foundation, and we are very happy to have the foundation located in our district and provide an adaptive reuse for the historic fire station. We request that an additional queue condition is added, which will allow for 3 rental events per month, superseding the original condition number 7 proposed by CPC. The condition would read, use of the facility, notwithstanding any conditions of approval, the rental of the facility to the public or other organizations for any events or ceremonies shall be limited to a maximum of 3 events per month, subject to the terms of the lease agreement with the city. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I have one public comment speaker, Mr. Kitsinian. My apologies.
None needed. You said it very well, sir. Good afternoon, council and committee members. My name is Nadek Kitsinian, and it's good to be back here once again in support of this very important project. This item today is a continuation of the City Council motion of May 10, 2013, directing the various city departments to negotiate a lease with the Armenian Cultural Foundation for the former Fire Station 83, in which the ACF would heavily invest to rehabilitate the property that has stood vacant and dilapidated for over 10 years. On behalf of the ACF, I'm also happy to report that the ACF has indeed worked with the city to get to this important stage for a zone change from public facility to residential so that it can operate as a community center. We also do indeed thank the various city departments for its cooperation throughout the years. We look forward to the zone change, executing the lease, and investing to build a wonderful community center in Encino. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That concludes public comment on this item. If there's no discussion, I don't see any. Mr. Mejia, the staff made proposals for findings and action, so we'd like to adopt those. So I guess if we could read that into the record.
Yes, so there will be an additional queue condition to allow 3 special events per month in lieu of the 1 month per month as requested by the City Planning Commission and as recommended by the Council District 5 representative.
Excellent. And so we will make those findings and adopt this item without objection. That'll be the order. All right, Mr. Mejia, can you conclude can you confirm that concludes our business for January 14, 2020?
Councilman, that concludes the agenda.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We're adjourned.